If you're a fan of the weird, strange and true stories like me, delivered in a story format, then you've come to the right place. I will be uploading a couple times a week. If that's of interest to you, please give the like button a click and subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you won't miss any of my uploads. Let's get to today's story. Here are 3 of the true stories that happened to me as a kid, living in Wichita Falls, Texas. The picture on the wall. When I was a young kid, my family lived on Sunset Drive in Wichita Falls, Texas. I lived with my parents and siblings. I had 1 sister and 2 brothers. My sister was the oldest, then I had a brother 1 year older than me, and 1 brother younger than me. We had a typical childhood growing up. My father loved to fish, and so did my older brother and I. Sunset Drive was off Seymour Highway in Wichita Falls. Sunset Drive dead-ended, and had a guardrail at the end with several stop signs. If you were driving a car and didn't stop before you hit the guardrail, you would drop off a cliff 15 feet down to the Wichita River. At the dead end on the left side, was a walking trail that led down to the Wichita River and a nice cleared off section that my father, brother, and I would fish at. We would catch good-sized catfish at this location. On the right side just before you got to the guardrail, was a gravel driveway that led up to a very old house that needed lots of work done to it. It looked like it was right out of a horror movie. The driveway was on a gradual incline higher than the road, and further to the right. The house sat on the top of the cliff. An old man lived at this house, and was very grumpy. If you got too close to his property, he would start cursing at you, and throwing rocks. We would stay away from that side of the road when we played, or rode our bicycles. He must have had 100 dogs, because of all the barking. He also had 55-gallon drums all over the place, and the area just smelled so bad. Like from old grease. One day early in the summer months, an ambulance went to his house and a short time later left with its lights and siren on. My father told us a few days later that the old man had passed away. A couple days later some people came to his house with a box truck. We believe it was his relatives removing his personal belongings out of the house. We didn't hear the dogs anymore after that. Several weeks went by. We would be out playing, and riding our bikes up and down the street. We would soon get enough courage to get closer and closer to the driveway, then we would slowly work our way up the driveway, and then up to the house. On most of the 55-gallon drums that were there, some would have the lids off, and we could finally see what was in them and making that bad smell. They looked like they had old restaurant grease, and chunks of animal fat in them. I'm not sure why he would have these, but it stunk up the whole area near the property. The lower windows on the house had 2 to 3 boards nailed to the window frames. My sister and brother walked onto the front porch, and I soon followed. We were curious, and tried the front door handle, and to our surprise, it was unlocked. We knew nobody was living there, so we slowly opened the front door all the way. We all stepped into the house, and was standing in the front room. The house smelled of mildew or a musty odor. Straight in front of us about 10 feet away was a stairway that went up about 5 or 6 steps to a landing, then turned to the right, and up about 6 or 7 more steps to the second floor. To our left was a bedroom. At an angle was a doorway that went into a kitchen. We went into the bedroom and looked around. On the floor was some trash but nothing else in the room. We went back into the front room and under a window was a broken piece of furniture. A small wooden end table possible with 1 leg broken off. On the floor was pieces of trash and a couple of very old pieces of newspapers. We went into the kitchen and looked around. There was trash left on the floor, and empty cans of dog food on the counter, and scattered about the floor. Straight ahead was a bathroom, and to the right was the back door. We decided it was time to head upstairs. This is where the story gets very scary. When we came into the front door of the house for the first time, we noticed a picture hanging on the wall above the stair landing, and a couple other pictures were hanging throughout the house. The picture hanging at the stairs was a very old picture in a wood frame. It was a portrait of a man from the waist up, that was turned slightly to his left when the picture was taken. The man was looking to his left, as if staring at something. My older brother went up the stairs first, and my sister was right behind him. I was still on the floor. My brother, almost at the top of the landing when he and my sister just stopped dead in their tracks. As I looked up to see why they stopped, I could clearly see that the eyes in the picture were no longer looking to the left as before, but now looking directly at us. They were the most piercing eyes I'd ever seen. I was the first to turn around and start screaming as I ran as fast as I could to my bike. My brother and sister were right behind me screaming. From the old house to our house was about a half block away, but it seemed like an eternity. We screamed all the way home. We never told our parents about this until we were in our early teens, and had already moved to a different part of Wichita Falls. We never went back to that house again. If you look at a current map for Sunset Drive in Wichita Falls, Texas, the road has been completely changed. It no longer dead ends, and looks to be leveled off. The old haunted house has been torn down. On the left is a nature center, and on the right where the house was, it's a public works sanitation division. This story has a part 2. Called The Dancing Red Shoes. Coming soon. The Dancing Ruby Red Shoes. When I was a young kid, we lived in Wichita Falls, Texas. My parents and siblings lived on Sunset Drive. I have an older brother and sister, and a younger brother. We loved to play outside riding our bikes up and down the street. At the end of Sunset Drive, the road dead-ended. To the left was a walking path that led down to the Wichita River, and to the right was a gravel driveway that led up to an old haunted house. This incident is part 2 of a video called The Picture on the Wall, that I posted about the story of the haunted house and what happened to us. I have included a link below to that video, if you would like to watch it first. My father and brother and I loved to fish, so every Saturday morning we would walk down to the river where a section was cleared off from brush and bushes. We would fish until around noon and catch enough catfish for us to cook for dinner that night. My mom would never clean the fish, but she would cook them for us. During the summer months, my older brother and sister and I would play around the banks of the Wichita River. You could follow a trail that went north up the river, or you could follow it west. If you followed the trail west, after a short distance you would come to an area between the banks of the river and a cliff. About 15 feet up on top of the cliff was the old haunted house. We had played in this area during the summer quite a lot, so we were very familiar with the area and what the cliff looked like. One day during the summer, while we were out playing near our fishing spot, we kept hearing sounds like something was banging on wood. The sound was coming from west of our location. As we followed the trail west, we continued to hear the sound getting closer and closer to us. We went around some large trees on the trail, and we heard the sound coming from above us. We looked up, and about 10 feet above, was a wooden door on the side of the cliff that had never been there before. On the door was a pair of red ruby shoes like Dorothy wore in The Wizard of Oz. The shoes appeared to be dancing on the door. This was right below the old haunted house. That was the scariest I had ever been in my life. We all ran home as fast as we could, screaming all the way. Our father got home from work a short time later. We told him what we had seen, and begged him to follow us there, so we could show him. We all went down to the river and walked the trail to the cliff area, and pointed up, but there wasn't a wooden door on the side of the cliff now. Our father gave us the riot act and told us to get home. After that incident, anytime my father wanted to go fishing, my brother and I would refuse to go. We never went down there again. If you were to ask either my sister or brother what happened at the cliff on Sunset Drive, they would tell you this exact story, because it really happened to us. The Shadow Person. In the late 60s, my family lived on Sunset Drive in Wichita Falls, Texas. We lived there for about a year and then moved to Armory Road in Wichita Falls. My family consisted of my parents and my siblings. I have a brother and sister older than me, and a younger brother. We were a typical family. My father worked less than a block from our house and my mother was a homemaker. We had a family dog named Wendy. Her breed was a Doberman Pinscher and she was psycho. One minute she would be playing with you and the next, she would want to tear your arm off. I don't know how many times she chased me up a tree in our front yard because she wanted to eat me. She was just crazy and nuts. She was a very good guard dog though. At night she slept in my parents' room with the door closed. Friday nights were normally date night for my parents. They would go out with family or friends and get home really late. My sister, being the oldest, would babysit us and we would listen to records or watch Saturday Night Live, when Saturday Night Live was good, and wait for our parents to get home, then we would go to bed. My older brother and I would get up early every Saturday morning and watch cartoons. Our favorite was the Bugs Bunny show. Sometimes in the summer months, we would get up early and go outside to catch cicadas, while they were still in their shells, and then watch them hatch. One Saturday morning my brother and I were watching cartoons, and we heard a noise behind us. We thought it was our sister or brother coming out of their room. We didn't think much of it. Our dog Wendy then started a low growling sound. We heard the noise again, and we both turned around to see what the noise was. About that time, a dark shadow person came out of our bathroom. It stood about 4 to 5 feet tall and you could see through it a little. It walked about 2 steps and turned as if to look at my brother and I, then it continued to walk toward a closet in the hallway. Wendy was still growling. My brother and I jumped up screaming and ran out the back door to a garage on our property. My dad came running out of the back door yelling at us to stop fighting. My brother and I fought a lot as kids. We told our dad we weren't fighting, and what we had seen. He cursed at us, and went back to bed. We never saw the shadow person after that, and I have not had any other paranormal or ghost sightings since. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you.